nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are going to move on to public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. Our phone line is open at 860-665-8736. And as everyone can see if they've seen the agenda tonight, as you know, this is the only public portion of our meeting tonight, followed by remarks by board members. We do not respond during public participation, although we do take down notes about what you've said to us, and we appreciate that. And afterwards, we'll have an executive session. We won't go back into public session except to adjourn this evening. So if you'd like to come on up, please feel free to do so and just state your name and address for the record. And the telephone number is 860-665-8736.
Good evening. Gary Bowles, 28 Burden Lane, Newington, lifelong Newington resident. To the Board of Education's credit, and I mean this, you were all in agreement with our town council to have one private investigation regarding the fuel spill and all circumstances surrounding same. You were all reminded of this by Deputy Mayor Beth Del Buono on the 24th of April 2018 with 7 of you present. Thank you for being there. Deputy Mayor Del Buono also made it very clear that you are the superintendent of schools' boss, just as the town council is the town manager's boss. My questions to the board are, were any of you aware of this separate investigation ordered by the superintendent of schools to the chief of security, ? Also, we desire to know who contacted the WFSB news station and released the findings of the report conducted by the Chief of Security before Mr. Binkhorst's report was discussed with our town council. Since all of you agreed to one investigation, my own opinion is that the Chief of Security's report was a total waste of time, money, and resources as ordered by the superintendent of schools. This should be of paramount concern and importance to you board members and the chief financial officer, and I wish he was here tonight. Mr. Binkhorst's extensive report further concluded the federally mandated DEEP regulations regarding the testing of the Fuel Master System were not followed. That in itself may be deserving of a hefty fine by the DEEP. It is also reported any fines for the 14,000 gallons diesel fuel spill against the town of Newington. It is also reported that disciplinary actions you will be taking against the central office personnel regarding this matter. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Is there any further public participation?
Good evening. My name is Wayne Alexander, 28 Burden Lane. One of the prominent things in the Binkhorst report was the lack of a spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plan. It didn't exist anywhere. As you are all aware from the tape, Apparently, the man who was running the shop over there had no idea what this was. There was none to be found. There was no written plan. This plan is required by 40 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 112. It is very specific. It has to be a written plan. There has to be a facility diagram and description, facility drainage, list of all the tanks. But more importantly, besides all of the other requirements, there was a requirement, and I read it at length, that there should be employee training for spill prevention, oil handling, spill cleanup, personnel training, and oil discharge prevention briefings, which we now know never happened. There should have been a facility inspection on a monthly basis. Some people do it on a daily basis. There should have been a 5-year plan review. There should have been a plan certification by a professional engineer. There should have been record-keeping requirements. And as we know, no inventory reconciliation. The internet is rife with examples of spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plans. Under the category of this could have been prevented, this is absolutely a preventable situation. And I would say, no lawyer, but I would say this goes beyond neglect. This is so serious that when you think of the word neglect, you think, okay, ordinary negligence, and then you hear gross negligence. And then you hear the next step up is reckless conduct. And I think this falls under reckless conduct. And I think that everybody in this town, especially the Board of Education, who had to dive deep and pay for a lot of this cleanup, you have to sit there and think, why was at least a regulatory and a statutory review not done to know what our responsibilities were so we could communicate that down the line? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Is there any further public participation?
Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I echo some of the statements made here and the concerns made here tonight at previous town meetings and our town Facebook pages. I urge you to be the board that finally holds the superintendent responsible for his actions, and in this case, his inactions. Keep not only the findings of the independent report in your minds, but his words and the plan to deceive not just you, but the town as a whole that we heard on the audio tape. Keep in mind, too, this is not the first instance of his omnipresent and deceptive attitude. Between this, the sudden appearance of 10 new buses, the sky is falling claim at Anna Reynolds that got switched to, oh, it's just cosmetic, when the social media thread turned to point the finger at him for neglecting it. Don't forget, too, the indoor quality question, the air quality question. They said testing was done and found out it was truly just a survey of the equipment. And other issues mentioned in this room and elsewhere. I've asked you to remember a few things. I just want to tell you, too, I remember his anger when a new board member, in an effort to truly understand the needs and running of the NPS, sent us some emails for information. And he just, he got very angry, and he declined to answer them. And it makes me wonder if he was afraid that such items as this would have come out by all those emails. You are the steward of the largest percentage of our tax dollars. It's up to you to be sure those funds are not only managed well, but honestly. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Havens. Is there any further public participation?
John Bashan, 56 Maple Hill. My first question is, if this is a meeting, a regular meeting, isn't the superintendent supposed to be here? I know you don't answer the questions, but I'm a little disappointed that he's not here for this part of it. I had a couple of, I didn't even plan on coming, and I certainly didn't even plan on speaking, but as some of you know, I can't resist sometimes. And I'm not afraid to just throw things out there, as you know. So, it's very calm here today. I expected there to be all kinds of high emotions, and that's why kind of in a morbid way I wanted to witness that maybe. But I'm impressed by how calm it is here. But I would speak to the emotions that have been prevalent on social media and what we hear around town. And I just think that the time, I don't understand why we're being so emotional at this moment. I think the time for emotions was in January. And some of the things I hear going on, again, social media primarily, I think that was more called for back in January. Some of you might remember, well, first of all, I'm a pretty environmentally conscious person, so as soon as I heard about this, I immediately went to north of Cedar Street, down into the wetlands, down on Millbrook. I was very concerned about that. Before DEEP was there, before the environmental contractor was there, I found evidence of diesel in the fuel, in the water there. Very concerned, came back and explained it to them. I shared videos, I recorded a lot of it, and I continued to do that on a pretty regular basis until the time when it became apparent, I would say, or at least it seemed that the environment was not at a serious risk. And then going by what the official positions from the town manager and the consultants, that the environment is restored to its, our environment is degraded here anyway, but it was restored to the acceptable background levels. My passion or my emotion started to ease, and I started to look at it a slightly different way. So I'm not here to defend the person. I don't know enough about school policy. I don't know enough about Board of Education policy to defend the person. And I'm sensing that this is kind of a cumulative effect, this emotion that I hear that seems to be against the super himself. If it is a cumulative effect and it's founded in these people's minds, then I couldn't really defend him against that. But I'm just thinking cautiously, and I'm not sure what the best route is. My first impression is I'm a very conservative person, is not to upend everything and turn everything upside down to try to fix a problem. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bashan. Is there any further public participation? Seeing none, we'll move on to remarks by, I'm sorry, Mrs. Droz received a letter to read in.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Mary Ann Simone, and I live at 55 Bayberry Road, Newington. I do not wish to take on a mob mentality and start arbitrarily shouting off with their heads, but the time has come for significant changes to occur with respect to the administration of the Newington Public Schools. Over the course of the last few years, I have become more and more interested in the goings-on of the town and the school systems, as I have two children who are currently enrolled in Newington schools. During this time, I have had to accept many explanations of issues with which I did not altogether agree. I have also had to accept statements that I have known to have omitted critical information. Although our superintendent of schools may have lots of interesting ideas and initiatives, I feel as though his priorities are not in alignment with those of the parents and other tax-paying citizens. There is only so much condescension and patting on the head that the parents can take, and there is only so much shifting monies that the taxpayers can take before losing faith in the abilities of the man who leads this charge. The long and short of it is that I no longer have faith that the superintendent's priorities match those of the people who fiscally support his role, nor do I have confidence that he will make prudent and acceptable choices moving forward. Although it pains me to suggest removing someone from their position, I cannot support the idea of keeping him in such an impactful role. Kindness regards, Mary Ann Simone.
And one last call for any further public participation. Seeing none, we'll move on to remarks by board members. I'll begin. I just wanted to address Mr. Bashan's question. I asked the administration, I told them they didn't need to be present this evening, as well as our board clerk, who was emailing me up until the time I left work this evening about where to get the microphones turned on, which I had some trouble doing, which is why we started 2 minutes late, because the only thing that the board is going to be doing tonight is speaking the members and our attorney in executive session. I didn't feel it was necessary to have the administration here, so that's on me, Mr. Bashand. Next, I would just reiterate for anyone watching or anyone who didn't hear it the first time or any of the other times we've talked about this before, but we won't be having any comment after our executive session. We won't be making public comment this evening of any kind regarding our personnel. It's the board policy not to comment on our personnel publicly. If and when there is something to report to the public, we certainly will do that, and we appreciate your patience as we had throughout this process. This meeting was set up months ago when we asked for an independent investigation. We decided as a board to wait until that investigation was over to meet and talk again about any issues we see fit, and that's what we're going to do this evening. I would ask if any other board members had any remarks before we moved on with our agenda. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to move into executive session to discuss central office personnel, including the members of the Board of Education and our board attorney. Moved by Mr. Vasella. Can I have a second on that? Seconded by Mrs. Guyon. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously at 7:20 p.m. We are now in executive session, and I would ask that the room be cleared and we'll be turning off the microphones. Thank you.